Buhuka landing site, Kyangwali sub-county in Kikuube district, is a hamlet perched on the shoreline of Lake Albert. I, alongside my cameraman, drove through a recently constructed paved road which cuts across a steep cliff. Concealed by the rugged escarpment lies the majestic Lake Albert, which from a distance shimmers like a mirage in the desert. The lake, a transboundary resource in the source of livelihood for the fishing community in this melting point, which includes foreign nationals who escaped roaming militias in the neighboring DRC. Yet, nothing prepares you for the misery and anguish of thousands trapped in appalling conditions today, adjacent to these camps of squalor at the Kingfisher oil fields in the Albertine region. A number of predicaments, the wrath of nature, evictions, and now the COVID pandemic have cast a pall on the livelihood of locals. In September, Kyangwali refugee settlement, which accommodates about 120,000 registered, some of the highest spikes in coronavirus cases. Both refugees and aid workers registered positive tests for the virus. Beyond the COVID pandemic, the hooded veil of death continues to stalk this area. These freshly dug graves at Buhuka hold the remains of those who died at Lake Albert after they were evicted. These evictions, enforced by the army and police at various landing sites, stretched from as far as Ntoroko to Welisa district. In a culture where the dead are given a dignified send-off, accompanied by eulogies and a solemn dirge to soothe the pain of those mourning, the times no longer allow for such practice. Today, they are hurriedly buried in shallow graves. Between April and May, when many evictions were carried out, about 45 people have died after their rickety canoes capsized in the lake. Adjacent to this area is another grave holding the remains of two people. This is what Alex Mwesije, a local politician, had to say.
We have a lot of evictions that have happened at the landing sites and also in Kasonga Parish, that's Kyangwali sub-county, Buhuka Parish, that's the landing sites. Let's talk of Kachunde, Senjojo, and so on. Close to 40 people that were evicted, they have nowhere to go. They are staying at my home. People in Kyangwali no longer sleep. They know any day they are being chased everywhere.
Atim Nedi was evicted from Senjojo alongside her children.
Nilikuwa na nyumba huko kwa Senjojo, nyumba mzuri, sasa nyumba naribika. Hapa watoto huko mingi yangu wasumbua mimi, mavazi ya mzuri hakuna, kukula mzuri hakuna. Tuko nateseka hapa sana. Sasa naomba usaidizi toka kwenu, msaidia sisi. Tunateseka sana. Tunataka government nataka kutusha siku kwa nafasi tunatoka iko mzuri sana. Juu hapa tunateseka sana.
Regino Okumu, the LC1 chairperson of Buhuka Parish, says locals were expelled from landing sites without being given adequate notice.
Wanatoa order peke yake saa 2 wanapana nataka watu yote hapa. Watu nawacha vyombo yao na baki huko, nyumba vile na baki, watu na baki. Watu natesekana mingi sana. Wakati watu nafika kwangu hapa, mimi naona maneno yana huruma sana. Mimi nafungua watu hadi muingie hapa. Mfunge tundubari peke yake. Tena tundubari sisi watu ya village vile kuona na kitu. LC5 vile iko. LC3 vile iko. Hapana kuja ama wakati lockdown watu wakijesi na fukuza watu hiyo. Watu hiyo hapana kuja. Mimi naomba nyinyi kama naomba wanafika sasa watu ya government. Fadhali mpeleka ripoti wapi? Huko kwetu Kampala huko watu ni kubali juu ya shida yetu vile. Kama government afanya nasema nini nyinyi watu wanasanyika mingi. Tena wanasema watu wasanyika mingi karibu. Wanakuja wanamwaga watu yote nakaa wapi? Karibu. Tena mimi iko shaman kufunga kitu kwa kwinya yangu watu yangu vile yote nakosa kitu na kufanya nakosa chakula nakosa kitu na kufunga kwa kinyo vile mimi naweza kufunga kinyo yangu fadhali mimi nasema fadhali wacha mimi vile nikufe sasa wa binadamu mwezi yangu napata shida hiyo ama saa yote mimi natembea na watu yangu yote sasa naonda hivi si sasa watu ya government ya Uganda.
The displaced locals lack latrines and safe water for drinking. After these evictions from a number of landing sites, government gave out 15 tons of maize flour to be distributed among 13 villages.
When they were evicted, was as if they were chasing animals. Many people drowned in the water.
On May 1st, 2020, the State Minister of Water and Environment, Sam Cheptoris, issued a statement at Uganda Media Center in regard to rising water levels. The President of Uganda is extremely concerned that a number of people and developments in the country have encroached on wetlands, shoreline, riverbanks and forests, and have partly contributed to the problems we are seeing in the country today. In a view of the above, I have been directed by His Excellency the President of Uganda to remove all encroaches on the wetlands, shoreline, riverbanks and government forests with immediate effect. Read the statement. In the months of April and May, Lake Victoria experienced significant flooding impacts on the lake shoreline communities in Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda, as well as downstream communities near Lake Choga and Lake Albert. A considerable increase in rainfall in 2019 was experienced in October by 79%, in November by 56% and in December by 74% compared to the long-term average. Observed rainfall in 2020 increased in January by 83%, in February by 25%, in March by 43% and in April by 33% compared to the long-term average. However, the month of May rainfall was less than the long-term average, read a July report from Nile Basin Initiative. The cause of these major increases in rainfall in Lake Victoria sub-basin was due to a positive Indian Ocean dipole, IOD, caused by the warmer sea temperatures in the western Indian Ocean region. With water levels rising, security personnel swung into action without any due regard for human rights and measures to combat the spread of COVID-19. The sight of a helicopter circling the skies sent villagers in Sebigoro and Nkondo villages in Kabuya sub-county, Kikuube district, into hiding. Many of these landing sites are duly gazetted villages with elected local council systems, polling stations and schools built by government. When we traveled here, we found most of these evicted living in congested areas, including football pitches, without food, clean water and latrines. Most of the evictees were women and children. They were living in makeshift homes crafted from grass, sticks and scrap. Children and the ailing were exposed to the punishing heat from the lake. Others sought shelter at this mud and water church devoid of social distancing rules. It is not clear yet who gave orders for evictions, but locals claim the Assistant RDC of Kikuube, Richard Tabaro, and Kikuube DPC, Irene Cheng, supervised the evictions. Those we spoke to claim the authorities claimed that the eviction was an order from above.
RDC nagamba ngo tugende izoba rumwe omuntu ayine bintu bye abamwe bayina abana abamwe bayina amatungo gabo bayina amaju gabo bombekire taruho cyo kurya nobona kubwa karantini coronavirus eruho.
Kazaire told Vox Populi that some of them were beaten by security personnel and weren't compensated before they were expelled. Namuka, who is a mother of 4, was born in Sebigoro village in 1990. By the time of her eviction, she had constructed a house with iron sheets, which was destroyed. David Okello says it was a Friday when the army arrived alongside the RDC of Kikuube district.
They started sensitizing us about coronavirus, the measures and everything. After that, RDC said, now we are at a paining situation. By Sunday, everyone should leave this place. Why? This place, they want army to have enough security on it. Because coronavirus need people to be at the same place to control. I say, that is a new convict measures? My question. And I asked him, you are chasing people without sensitizing the community, without knowing that where they are going. The artist said, we must leave. Whether we like or not, we must leave.
Okello said the army and police caned those who tried to resist the eviction.
We are Ugandans. We must know our roles. And I know when the government want to evict people from another place, they must have enough place, enough day for the community.
Simon Opio fears that cholera will likely strike.
The army came and intimidated us. They wanted us to leave the area. What I know in the government policy, whatever is happening, people are sensitized. People know why they should leave a particular place. If people are going to be transferred to another place, they should clearly know why they're leaving that place. And they should actually, the government should plan before and see that what will be the effect of just making people to, within 2 hours to leave a place. Where do you expect a population of 600 people to go? If they are to leave within 2 hours, this is more than even a war. Even in a war, people begin fighting for the first day. People may run from their places maybe after 5 or at least a week.
In June, a boat sailing from Chenjaja landing site in Kabuya sub-county to Chakapere landing site in Kyangwali sub-county capsized. On board were locals fleeing the forceful eviction by the army. Earlier on in May, government announced plans to close landing sites, which in its view was facilitating the illegal movement of Congolese nationals during the lockdown. Many Congolese, especially those fleeing violence from the war-wrecked Ituri province, often cross to Uganda on canoes. Major General Leopard Chanda, the UPDF Chief of Staff for Land Forces, held a meeting with top security officials in the Albertine region, where it was resolved to close over 200 ungazetted landing sites in the districts of Kagadi, Kikuube, Hoima and Bolisa districts with immediate effect. Highly placed sources revealed that the decision to evict those at the landing sites is not only based on rising water levels, but a geopolitical threat from the volatile DRC. Kabale, in Buhuka district, where the refinery and Hoima International Airport is to be located, has a peculiar history. It is where the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, an Islamic rebel outfit, launched its rebellion in the early 90s. A former external security organization intelligence chief, speaking off the record, revealed that the ADF deliberately occupied Buhuka after then implacable foe Omar Bashir's Khartoum regime tried to disrupt plans to develop Uganda's oil wells for commercial production. The ADF is currently holed up in North Kivu in the DRC. Whereas a legitimate security concerns exists, civil society officials claimed government ought to respect human rights and civil liberties. Opio Vincent Alpha, a councillor for Kabuya County, Chiwole District, says they were not consulted about the evictions.
Happened under the guise of clearing up illegal landing sites. But we, as the custodians of the lower local government units, villages and the landing sites, we were not consulted. We were not involved in any stage. There were no sensitization that took place to ensure that there is ABCD going to take place in this place.
Emazi Christopher, who works with Global Rights Alert, says the situation of those evicted is deplorable and security personnel should cease relying on iron-fisted tactics.
600 people within 2 days, and then you're saying you're fighting COVID-19. I think that is very suicidal. To me, I would think that government needs to revise its decision on how it's approaching this. Because, first of all, these people have rights. They have their civil rights. In the first place, they should have been contacted and some kind of negotiation take place. Because if you look at the areas, for example, of Buhuka and elsewhere, some of these people have land titles. There is an association which is having a land title under communal land ownership. So why are we not considering this? And then another question is that, are we going to compensate all these people that we have evicted?
As the sun sets, the fishermen in their boats glide across the lake, but the lake is no longer the gentle tide they were accustomed to. Today, they set off for the sails, aware that they are in the belly of the beast.